on Christmas Eve, in the brightest shop on the richest street. They accused her of stealing a toy in front of everyone. What they did not know was, she owned the building. Quick one, before we dive in. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you're here for dignity, fairness, and real accountability, hit like and subscribe. Alright, back to the story. The street outside is wet, reflecting fairy lights like scattered coins. Black cabs glide past. Shop windows glow warm and white, clean as a film set. Nia Adebayo, late 20s, dark skin, neat knotless braids pulled into a low bun, steps out of the cold with a simple wool coat and a tote bag. Beside her is her little brother K-12. In a puffer jacket with a too big scarf, Nia checks her phone. A message thread titled, Harrington and Row Board. Kay looks up at the window display. A mountain of wrapped gifts, a gold sleigh, fake snow falling behind glass. Kay says, this place looks like it smells expensive. Nia soft smiles and says, try not to touch anything. We're in and out. She tightens her grip on the tote. A charity logo is stitched on it. Northside Family Fund. Inside, the doors open with a hush. Feet, perfume, polished marble. A choir track plays quietly over the speakers. Every surface gleams and every head seems to swivel the same way. They head straight for the Christmas wrap desk. Its bright white lighting, spotless counters, satin ribbons lined up like soldiers. A wrap assistant, cheerful, turns to greet them, then flicks her eyes down to Nia's tote and Kay's trainers. Her smile tightens. She says, can I help? MIA places a list on the counter. Nia says, hi, I'm collecting the final toy donation set, the reserved bundles for the Northside Drive. Under Adebayo. The assistant types, slowly, lips pressed. She says, that's not showing. Nia leans in, calm. Nia says, it was confirmed yesterday. 20 bundles, prepaid. A sharp voice slices in Charlotte Wexford, 40s. White, immaculate blazer, perfect hair. The kind of confidence that expects the room to move for her. Charlotte says, what seems to be the issue? The assistant, relieved, gestures at Nia, like handing off a problem. She says, there's a reservation. Charlotte's eyes scan Nia's face like a security camera, then drop to the tote, then back up. Charlotte, too sweet, says, and you are? Nia says, Nia Adebayo, it's for a children's charity. We're collecting today, so families get them tomorrow morning. Charlotte's smile stays. Her eyes do not. Charlotte says, right. Well, our wrap desk is for paying customers, not collection services. Nia blinks once. Nia says, it's paid. It's a donation partnership. Your store promoted. Charlotte taps the counter like she's tapping patience out of herself. Charlotte says, if it's paid, it would be on the system. It's not, so we can't help you. Kay shifts beside Nia, embarrassed already, small in the bright space. Kay quiet says, Nia, it's fine. We can go. Nia breathes in. Steady, Nia says. Could you check again? It may be under the board liaison, or under Northside Family Fund. Charlotte's head tilts. Charlotte says, board. That word lands like a joke she's not letting through. Charlotte says, love. The only board you'll be meeting here is the one that tells you where the exit is. A couple nearby shoppers glance over. One pretends not to listen. Another does not pretend at all. Nia's jaw tightens, but her voice stays even. Nia says, there's no need to speak to me like that. Charlotte steps closer, lowering her voice while making sure everyone can still hear. Charlotte says, there is every need when someone tries to scam a busy shop on Christmas Eve. Nia's eyes flick to a small sign. We reserve the right to refuse service. Charlotte points at Nia's tote. Charlotte says, what's in the bag? Nia says, a toy list, gloves, receipts. Charlotte says, open it. A beat. Nia holds her ground. Nia says, no. Charlotte's smile drops completely. Charlotte says, Then we have a problem. Charlotte makes a tiny gesture, not dramatic, efficient. A security supervisor, Dean Tall, broad earpiece in, appears within seconds like he was waiting. Dean says, "You all right, Charlotte?" She doesn't look away from Nia. Charlotte says, "I need you to help me with a situation. Potential theft." Kay's eyes widen. Kay says, "Theft." Nia's head snaps to Charlotte. Nia says, "I have not stolen anything." Charlotte lifts her brows. Charlotte says, "Then you won't mind cooperating." Dean steps into Nia's space, voice low, trained. Dean says, "Ma'am, can you come with me?" Nia says, "No, I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you're accusing me with evidence." Charlotte turns her head slightly, as if speaking to a child who is being difficult. Charlotte says, "This is private property. If you refuse, I'll have police remove you." Nia looks around. The store is bright, festive, full of families. Wrapping paper, sparkles. A child laughs near a fake snow machine, and right here, in the middle of it, a black woman is being treated like a threat. Nia slowly takes out her phone. She doesn't wave it. She simply holds it. Nia says, "I'm recording." Charlotte's eyes flash. Charlotte says, "Of course you are." Dean reaches for Nia's tote. Dean says, "Bag, please." Nia pulls it back. Nia says, "Do not touch me." Charlotte's tone becomes ice. Charlotte says, "You can do this the easy way or the hard way." Kay's voice cracks. Kay says, "Please, we didn't do anything. That does it." Nia's eyes soften at her brother, then harden again at Charlotte. Nia says, "You are humiliating a child on Christmas Eve over a charity collection." Charlotte leans in, whispering like poison. Charlotte says, "People like you always have a story." Nia just once, not because it hurts, but because it's familiar. Dean gestures. Dean says, "Back office." Now. 2 more guards appear, not touching yet, just forming a wall in the bright white lighting. It looks like a scene, staged for maximum shame. Nia's voice drops into something frighteningly calm. Nia says, "Say clearly, for my recording, what you're accusing me of." Charlotte speaks louder. For the audience, Charlotte says, "Attempted theft and refusal to comply." Remove her. Kay grabs Nia's sleeve. Kay says, "Nia." Nia squeezes his hand once. Nia to Kay says, "Keep your head up to Dean." Nia says, "Touch me, and you'll regret it." Dean pauses. He's done this before, but not with someone who looks him straight in the eye. Like that, they escort them through the store anyway, not dragging, but close enough. People stare. A woman clutches her shopping bag tighter. A man smirks like this is entertainment. And above it all, the carols keep playing. The back office is smaller, still bright, still clean. A framed photo of the store's founder in black and white. A Christmas wreath on the door. Charlotte stands with her arms folded, as if she's already won. Dean sets Nia's tote on the table. Dean says, "Open it, please." Nia slowly unzips it herself. Inside, receipts. A printed charity list. Gloves. A small envelope. Charlotte watches, waiting for the gotcha. Dean flips the receipts. His brow furrows. Dean says, "These are store receipts." Nia says yes. For the donation bundles, Charlotte snatches one. Reading too fast, too sure. Her face tightens. Charlotte says, "Receipts can be forged." Nia's eyes flick to the framed founder photo. Nia says, "You're desperate to make me guilty." Charlotte slams the receipt down. Charlotte says, "I'm protecting my staff and my customers." Nia steps forward. Nia says, "No, you're protecting your comfort, and my presence makes you uncomfortable." Charlotte's nostrils flare. Charlotte says, "Don't play that card with me." Nia laughs once, not joy, a bitter disbelief. Nia says, "On Christmas Eve, you accuse me of theft, with no evidence, surround me with security, threaten police, and you want to talk about cards." Kay wipes his eyes quickly, furious at himself for crying. Kay says, Can we go now? Charlotte points at the door like she's doing them a favor. Charlotte says, yes, you can go. And your band.nia doesn't move. Nia says, we're not leaving until you answer one question. Charlotte says, what? Nia holds up the small envelope from her bag. Nia says, do you know what this is? Charlotte glances, uninterested. Nia says, it's the agenda for today's board meeting. Upstairs at 4:30. Charlotte lets out a sharp laugh. Charlotte says, you're delusional. Nia opens the envelope and pulls out a thick, embossed card, gold lettering. Charlotte's eyes flicker as she reads the words she never expected to see in Nia's hands. Harrington and Rowe. Emergency board session. Confidential. For the first time. Charlotte looks unsure, just slightly. Then she recovers. Charlotte says, anyone can print fancy paper. Nia leans in, voice low. Nia says, and anyone can show their true character under Christmas lights. They march Nia and Kay back towards the public area, aiming for maximum exit, maximum message. As they reach the staff lift corridor, the lift doors open. A man steps out in a long coat, mid-50s, white, distinguished, carrying a slim laptop bag. He looks like Law and Money had a child. Mr. Hawthorne. He stops dead when he sees Nia flanked by security. Hawthorne says, Nia. Charlotte freezes. Charlotte says, Mr. Hawthorne, good afternoon. Hawthorne's eyes cut to Charlotte, then Dean, then back to Nia. Hawthorne says, what is happening? Charlotte forces a laugh. Charlotte says, minor misunderstanding. This woman was causing a disturbance. Nia speaks quietly, controlled. Nia says, you said you'd meet me upstairs. Hawthorne's expression changes, not confusion, recognition, respect. Hawthorne says, I did. I'm early. Charlotte's face drains of color in slow motion. Charlotte says, I'm sorry. You know her. Hawthorne looks at Charlotte like she's just spoken nonsense in a courtroom. Hawthorne says, of course I know her. Charlotte tries to keep her footing. Charlotte says she claimed she was involved with the board. Hawthorne's voice becomes razor calm. Hawthorne says she is the board. Silence, even the distant carols. Feel quieter. Kay looks up at Nia, shocked. Kay says, Nia. What? Nia doesn't answer her brother yet. She keeps her eyes on Charlotte. Charlotte's lips part, but no words come out. Hawthorne steps closer, addressing Dean. Hawthorne says, release them. Now. Dean hesitates, glances at Charlotte. She can't even nod. Dean steps back. Hawthorne turns to Charlotte. Hawthorne says, please explain why you have just publicly detained Ms. Adebayo in her own store. Charlotte's voice stutters. Charlotte says, her own. Nia exhales. Finally Nia says, I didn't want to do it like this. Charlotte's professionalism cracks. Charlotte says, I had no idea who she was. Nia's eyes sharpen. Nia says, that's the point. Charlotte, upstairs. The boardroom overlooks the main hall. Below, shoppers move through light and music like a snow globe. Inside, polished table, bottled water, a Christmas centerpiece that suddenly feels inappropriate. A few board members sit waiting. A couple glance at their watches. One older woman, South Asian, looks up and smiles warmly at Nia. Mrs. Patel says, there you are. Nia nods, then looks at K. Nia gentle, says, sit there, yeah. Hot chocolate. You're safe. K sits, wide-eyed. Clutching the cup, someone hands him. Hawthorne clears his throat. Hawthorne says, for the record, Ms. Nia Adebayo is the majority shareholder by way of the Adebayo Trust, effective immediately. She is acting chair and interim chief executive. Charlotte stands near the door like a ghost. Nobody invited. Her face is stiff with panic. Nia turns to the room. Nia says, I wasn't meant to be seen today. I was meant to be a name on paper until the announcement. She looks at Charlotte. Nia says, But some people only respect power when it has a title they recognize. Charlotte tries to speak. Charlotte says, "Ms. Adebayo, I apologize. Sincerely, I did what I thought was right." Nia's voice is calm. "That's what makes it lethal," Nia says. "You thought it was right because you thought I was powerless." Charlotte swallows. Nia says, "Tell them what you did." Charlotte's mouth opens. She glances at the board, at Hawthorne, at Nia, at the door as if she could run. Finally, Charlotte says, "I accused her of theft. I called security. I escorted her out." Nia nods. Nia says, "And what did you say to me?" Charlotte's eyes shine with fear. Charlotte says, "I said, people like you always have a story." The boardroom goes cold. Mrs. Patel's expression hardens. Another board member, a black man in his 60s with graying locks. Mr. Campbell leans forward. Campbell says, "People like you." Charlotte's face crumples. Charlotte says, "It came out wrong." Nia tilts her head. Nia says, "No. It came out honest." Nia takes a breath. Not for Charlotte. For herself. For Kay, Nia says. "This store has a reputation. Luxury, tradition, service." She points down through the glass to the bustling floor. Nia says, "But today, under Christmas lights, you turned it into a stage for humiliation." Nia looks at Hawthorne. Nia says, "What did we just acquire?" Hawthorne answers cleanly. Hawthorne says, "A brand, a building, and a culture problem." Nia nods. Nia says, "Exactly." She turns back to Charlotte. Nia says, "You're suspended. Effective immediately. Pending investigation. Dean 2. While we review security conduct." Charlotte's knees almost buckle. Charlotte says, "Please, I've worked here 10 years. Nia's voice stays steady. Nia says, "And I've been treated like I didn't belong for longer than that." They return downstairs. It's still bright, still glittering, still pretending. But now, staff sense something, like air pressure shifting. Nia walks through the main hall with Hawthorne and 2 board members, not to show off, to correct what was done. Charlotte trails behind, pale, trying to look invisible. They reach the rap desk, where it started. The assistant looks up, startled, then nervous. Nia speaks clearly, audible, but not theatrical. Nia says, "The North Side donation bundles, bring them out please." The assistant scrambles. Rap assistant says, "Yes, of course." Charlotte's lips tremble. Nia looks around at the staring shoppers. Nia says earlier, "My little brother was made to feel like he should be ashamed to exist in this building." Kay stands beside her now, shoulders squared. Nia says, "If any child should feel ashamed today, it's not him." A few shoppers shift uncomfortably. One man looks down at his phone like it's suddenly urgent. Nia turns to the staff nearby. Softer, Nia says, "If you helped keep this place running, I see you. But if you used this place to feel bigger than other people, that ends today." Then she looks at Charlotte. Nia says, "You told me the only board I'd meet was the one pointing to the exit." Nia gestures towards the lift corridor. Nia says, "That lift goes up to the boardroom. Go there now. Hand your keys to Hawthorne." Charlotte's voice is thin. Charlotte says, "Please, don't do this in front of everyone." Nia holds her gaze. Nia says, "You didn't mind doing it to me." Charlotte walks away. Past shoppers, past staff, past the glitter that suddenly looks cheap. And, for the first time, the store feels like it belongs to someone who actually understands what it should be. The donation bundles arrive, beautifully wrapped, each with a tag that reads, "Merry Christmas." Kay touches one, gently. Kay says, "These are for kids like the ones we saw last week." Nia nods. Nia says, "Yes." Kay's eyes fill again, but this time it's not shame, it's relief. Kay says, "I thought you were going to get arrested." Nia crouches to his height. Nia says, "Me too." She pauses. Nia says, "But listen to me. Even if I didn't own anything in this building, you still didn't deserve that." Kay nods slowly. Nia stands, turns to the crowd one last time. Nia says, "Merry Christmas. Do better." And she walks out with her brother and the bundles. Back into the wet street where the lights reflect like a second chance. Later that night, upstairs again, the boardroom is quieter. The Christmas centerpiece has been moved aside. Hawthorne slides a file across the table. Hawthorne says, "Statements, CCTV, witness notes." Nia nods. Nia says, "And the staff who tried to help." Mrs. Patel smiles. Mrs. Patel says, "Already noted." There was a young man who offered the boy water while security hovered. He looked terrified, but he did it anyway. Nia's eyes soften. Nia says, "Promote him." Campbell nods, approving. Campbell says, "That's how you change culture. You reward courage, not cruelty." Nia looks out the window at the busy floor. Nia says, "Tomorrow is Christmas. I don't want a press release. I want action." She turns back to them. Nia says, "First, we deliver every remaining bundle to Northside, not donate. Deliver. Personally, with staff volunteering on paid time." Hawthorne smiles slightly. Hawthorne says, "Understood." Nia takes a breath. Nia says, "Second, we change policy. If security engages someone, there must be a clear reason recorded. No vague suspicion. No profiling." Mrs. Patel nods firmly. Mrs. Patel says finally, Nia's phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number. Unknown says, "I saw what you did. Thank you for standing up. My daughter watched." She said, "Ma'am, she didn't let them break her." Nia stares at it for a long moment. Then she types back. Nia says, "Tell her she never has to earn her right to exist." Christmas morning is quieter, softer light. Nia stands in a community hall with volunteers, handing out wrapped toys. Kay runs around helping, confident now, laughing. A little girl opens a box and squeals. Nia watches, eyes shining, the kind of emotion that doesn't ask permission. A volunteer nudges her. Volunteer says, "You all right?" Nia nods. Asterisk. Nia says, "Yeah." She looks at Kay again. Nia says, "I just needed him to see that the world can change, even when it tries to tell you." It one single quotes T.K. Runs up breathless. Kay says, "Nia, that kid over there asked if you're famous." Nia laughs, real this time. Nia says, "What did you say?" Kay says, "I said, she's not famous. She's just not afraid." Nia kneels, adjusts his scarf. Nia, quiet, says, "Neither are you." Kay smiles. Outside, the city keeps moving. But somewhere in Knightsbridge, a store has a new rule, written without ink. Under Christmas lights or not, nobody gets to decide who belongs. If you've ever been judged in a shop, at work, or just walking into a room, comment, "I belong." I want to see where you're watching from too. If this hit home, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs that reminder. Dignity is not something you earn, it's something you are owed.